Good morning, I am Rebekah Yehovah from Teshuvah Ministries, and today I have a little idea for you for first fruits. Actually, it's not my idea, it's Yehovah's idea. So I want to read you a few things first from the scriptures, and then I'm going to show you what we do for first fruits. Okay, so I'm going to read to you from the actual covenant, the royal law in Exodus 23. He makes mentions of a first fruit offering that we are supposed to bring him. So let's look at it. I am actually going to start in verse 14, where he starts to nail out the 3 annual festivals that he wants us to show up for. It says 3 times a year you're to celebrate a festival to me. He starts with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and he says, celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days. Eat bread without yeast. And then in the next breath, he says, no one is to appear before me empty-handed. So you're not supposed to appear before him at that festival empty-handed. So then he lists out the other 2 festivals he wants you to show up for. Feast of Harvest, which is Shavuot. Feast of Ingathering, which is Sukkot. So those 3 times a year, everyone is supposed to appear before him. And a little bit later, he says, bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of Yehovah your Elohim. So you can see here clearly that he's talking about a first fruit offering. And then I just want to point out that in the covenant, he also talks about giving him your firstborn, because all the firstborn of Israelites belonged to him, because he passed over their houses and didn't destroy their firstborn. So their firstborn belonged to him now. So we must give him our firstborn of our children and our animals and our crops. So let's look. This is Exodus 22, basically 29 to 30. You must give me the firstborn of your sons. Do the same with your cattle and your sheep. All right. Let them stay with their mothers for 7 days, but give them to me on the 8th day. All right. I got another verse for you. And then also in Exodus 34:20, he says, no one is to appear before me empty-handed. And it's interesting, again, he says this right after he's talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So in verse 18, he says, celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days, eat bread without yeast in the month of Aviv. The first offspring of your womb belongs to me. So he's talking about the firstborn of our children, the firstborn of our animals belong to him. And then he says, do not show up in front of me empty-handed. So I think that's amazing right there. He's kind of linking the idea of giving him our firstborn and dedicating our firstborn to him, and of our children and our animals, as well as bringing him our first fruits. He's linking that with Feast of Unleavened Bread, and we know that during the Feast of Unleavened Bread is first fruits. So this is clearly talking about a first fruit offering. I have another verse for you, Deuteronomy 16:16, and this is just driving the point home. Let's look at it. It says, 3 times a year, all your men must appear before Yehovah your Elohim at the place he will choose, at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of Weeks, which is Shavuot, Feast of Tabernacles, which is Sukkot. No man should appear before me empty-handed. Each of you must bring a gift in proportion to the way Yehovah your Elohim has blessed you. Okay, so here we see clearly that we are supposed to bring him a gift during this Feast of Unleavened Bread, really, that is in proportion to how he has actually blessed us. All right, this is talking about a first fruits offering. Okay, so clearly we see that when we come up to celebrate these feasts in front of him, he wants us to bring an offering. And he wants us to bring an offering in proportion to how he has blessed us. And from this text, it looks like we're supposed to do that for all of the Hag feasts, all the pilgrimage feasts. So in the spring, during Unleavened Bread, which first fruits is a part of, bring an offering in a way that in a proportion to how he has blessed you. And then also at Shavuot, and then also at Sukkot. All right, I have one more verse for you from Deuteronomy 26, verse about 1 through 11. And this talks about how we are to bring our offering to Yehovah. And he has a prayer that he actually wants us to say. So we actually have words that we're supposed to bring him during this offering. Let's look. When you have entered the land that Yehovah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance, and have taken possession of it and settled in it, take some of the first fruits of all that you produce from the soil of the land that Yehovah your Elohim is giving you, and put them in a basket. This is one reason that I like to do baskets. I give away first fruits offering baskets on first fruits. I like that connotation, basket, because I like baskets. All right, so I use a basket and I put stuff in it and give it away. Then go to the place Yehovah your Elohim will choose as a dwelling for his name, and say to the priest in office at the time, I declare today, Yehovah your Elohim, that I have come to the land that Yehovah swore to our forefathers to give us. The priest shall take the basket from your hands and set it down in front of the altar of Yehovah your Elohim. Back up there, isn't that cool? Say to the priest in office at the time. Who's in the office now? Who is the High Kohen Gadol right now? It's Yahshua HaMashiach. So we take our first fruits offering and we wave it before we offer it to him. Sweet. Then you shall declare before Yehovah your Elohim, and this is the prayer. My father was a wandering Armenian, and he went down into Egypt with a few people and lived there and became a great nation, powerful and numerous. But the Egyptians mistreated us and made us suffer, putting us to hard labor. Then we cried out to Yehovah, the Elohim of our fathers. Yehovah heard our voice and saw our misery, toil, and oppression. So Yehovah brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with great terror and with miraculous signs and wonders. He brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now I bring the first fruits of the soil that you, O Yehovah, have given me. Isn't that cool? That's the prayer that he wants us to pray when we bring our first fruits offering. All right, and then it goes on. It says, place a basket before Yehovah your Elohim and bow down before him. And you and the Levites and the aliens among you shall rejoice in the good things Yehovah your Elohim has given you and your household. So isn't that awesome? Here we have a command and instructions on how to actually bring our first fruits offering to him. We are to say this prayer, and we're supposed to put everything in a basket and say this prayer. So of course we're not in the land of Israel, in the promised land yet, but we can practice this. And one way to practice this is to give a first fruits offering. This is my idea for you. Not only do I do baskets, which I may do in a little video and show you that, but one thing that is fun to do is to say, who over the past year has just really fed my heart and soul in my walk with Yehovah? Who has been light on my path? Who has shown me kingdom treasures and shared those with me? And so we talk about that, and for each person in our family, it can be different. So then we go and then we say, how has Yehovah blessed us? You couldn't possibly, give enough to tell him how much he has blessed you and to thank him for that. And so we give a token. So we decide on how much money we want to give, and then we get a little special card for that person, and then we write a note to them, and we put in some of our first fruits offering, and then we put it in the envelope. We get it all ready to mail out the next day. So this is something we do as a tradition for first fruits. So it can be to a ministry, it can be to a person. So if there's a ministry or a person who has helped to give you eyes to see, give them a first fruit offering. This is a really cool tradition to do, to talk about over the breakfast table on first fruits morning or whatnot, to figure out how you can give back. And first fruits is a fantastic time, a commanded time actually, to do that. Never show up to his feast empty-handed. He says it over and over and over, never show up empty-handed. So when you go to a feast at someone's house, bring them a gift. I'm talking outside of first fruits. First fruits is special. This is like a big deal. Give your most at first fruits. As far as money goes, I think. I've also given at first fruits when I didn't have money. I've given things that I've made, like candles or different things that but make it big. Give generously to Yehovah, and by giving to other people and ministries to help them continue on in their work for the King, then you bless them and you're blessing Yehovah. And just a reminder, this gift money on first fruits does not come from tithe. So this shouldn't be tithe money. Tithe money is already his. He's already claimed that. That 10% is his. And if you're not giving it to him, then you're robbing him, as Malachi says. But this here is first fruits offering. So it comes from your abundance. It comes from what is yours. Okay, 10% is his. That's tithe. That's already taken. All right, this money, this first fruit offering comes from what is yours. It's a free will offering is what it's called. And interesting, if you study free will offerings in the scriptures, it's pretty cool. But free will offering, this comes from your stash that you would spend on yourself or your bills or your whatever, you're spending money, whatever. But make sure that you give like he's asking you to. He's asking you to give in proportion to how he has blessed you. So there's one idea on how you and your family can celebrate first fruits. And actually, it's not my idea, it's Yehovah's idea. Shalom. This is the wave offering for first fruits to Yehovah and Yahshua and the rock who are sitting in the audience. Hadassah's got the idea. There you go. Good girl.